Welcome to another episode of the 99 Seconds Career Podcast. My name is Jürgen Schmid. I am career mentor, consultant, teacher, and speaker. Here, we will bring up all kinds of career aspects in a way you have maybe never heard before. I like you to have an awesome career. Therefore, I give you something money cannot buy, sharing experience and insight. All this every other week in 99 seconds. This is the 14th episode of the 99 Seconds Career Podcast. As it is the finale of Season 1, let's have an extra large version of it. I have invited a professional change manager to talk about change. Let's jump right into it. Today we talk about change with my guest Charlene van Heuveswijn. She is change management consultant for one of the big consulting firms here in Brussels. She states that her career goal is to drive positive change in organizational transformations. We'll discuss why organizations change and what it means for the people inside the organization when change is going on. Welcome, and thanks for joining us, Charlene.
Thanks for having me. I'm very thrilled to record my first podcast with you.
It's going to be fun. You have quite a diverse career history. You started as a strategic analyst in Brussels, then worked as a marketing specialist and sales and marketing manager in Sydney and Canberra. You settled back in Brussels as a change management consultant for the past 2 years. You hold a master's degree in business engineering, both from the Louvain School of Management and the Independent Technology Institute of Mexico in Mexico City. And both with honors, and I need to tell you, I'm quite impressed by this.
Thank you.
But already as a student, you developed a passion for volunteering. You have coached a team of students in Cameroon to help them with their social entrepreneurial projects, and you led a team of volunteers in recovery efforts from the bushfires in Australia, just to name 2 of them. Currently, you are involved with a non-profit organization in Brussels that assists people in finding employment, and it is through that context that we met a couple of weeks ago. Again, I'm very happy that we meet today once more and that we record the podcast. Before I ask you why you have chosen change management as your field of work, maybe you could explain what you actually do as a change manager.
Well, it's a good question because it is already hard sometimes to explain what a consultant is because it has such a broad term. And change management isn't quite self-explanatory either. We organized a workshop to co-create our motto that we would share with other employees at Accenture or with clients or with any other people that is interested about what we do. And that motto is that we enable people to embrace change by connecting business and technology in a human way. And in my words, I like to say that I help an organization, which is my client, to adopt the changes they want to see, to support each of their individual to be aware of the change, to want to change and be able to change and advocate for the change. Without that support or without managing that change, it is shown that 7 out of 10 projects would actually fail if you don't have that change management.
Well, I guess as a master of business engineering, you have many options and ideas to focus your career on. What made you choose change management?
Well, it all started with a brunch on a sunny Sunday morning. So my dad and I are famous for being ideas generators, as my mom liked to call us. So usually on Sundays, when I meet my dad around avocado toast, egg benedict, and soft-cooked spinach, for example, we love to brainstorm. But between us, we know only 0.1% of those ideas comes to life. But one Sunday, about 5 years ago, so I was still a student back then, we were discussing about my thesis, one other, maybe slightly bigger idea that I had. So my idea was to reimagine business models, to make them more human, more resilient, to survive through crisis. So quite a big topic and still actual, actually. But again, I wondered if ever someone reads my thesis, which I doubt, knowing that it has 100 pages, how can they successfully implement my idea or my reinvented business model? And then I met my cousin, who was and is still a change management practitioner. And at first, I didn't quite understand what it was, because we never studied at my university back then. But then he explained to me how it can actually support organization and their transformation, and also support people to change their mindset, their way of doing things. And I thought, what a powerful tool. It completely changed the way I wanted to present my thesis. So I went back to the structure, included the change management principles in every chapter, and it worked out pretty well. So not only now my thesis could inspire potentially the reader, but also provided the reader the tools on how to implement it. So my thesis story made me understand that ideas are essential, creative ideas are even more essential, but the most creative idea wouldn't fly without people or organization being able to change and adapt to that idea. So that's how I ended up becoming a change management practitioner here, to implement great ideas, great creative, innovative ideas, and turn projects into successful journey.
Cool, because I see the way you talk about that, you are enthusiastic and full of energy for that. You are helping organizations to change, that's what I learned. And I have two questions related to that. The first one is, why do they want or maybe sometimes need to change? And the second one is what they're actually doing when they change.
Well, there are many elements, circumstances that make people and organizations want to change or need to change. The latest example could be the COVID-19 pandemic that's made organizations rethink the way they're working, including the remote work in their policy, for example. Also, some companies even completely change the way they organize their office, their interior design, to better fit their employees' needs and attract them back in the office space, because some of them were very happy working from home. Also, that's an older one. The digitalization and technologies are obviously a big organization disruptor. One employee, for sure, in his career will, without a doubt, have to use a new IT tool, a new machine, or learn a new process in his work life. Or more recently, the Ukraine war, that put a lot of pressure on organizations' financial situations. So budgets are restricted, so is the recruitment budget. So companies must rethink their employee experience. They need to focus on the people they have at the moment because they cannot recruit more, and really think on how they're going to make them grow and acquire the needed skills for the company to evolve and be still competitive in their markets, instead of losing those employees. And these are just like 3 examples I just gave, but there are so many reasons for an organization to change because the world is constantly changing. So for companies and organizations to survive in that environment, they need to constantly adapt, change the way they're doing things, to evolve and to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, that leads us to the other side of change, because we talked about organizations, companies, institutions, whatsoever. But organization always means people. So what does it mean for the employee if their organization is going through change?
Well, us humans are very reluctant to change.
Really?
It is our very nature. And it isn't hard to prove. I'm going to give you just very concrete examples that everyone had to live, at least here in Belgium. So just imagine now that how you would react when you have been told that now you must buy 5 different bins instead of just one. And your first emotions are probably going to be frustration, you are annoyed, you do not want to buy those 5 bins instead of just having one. So first you must go buy them, you're annoyed to do that, and then you must learn the sorting out rules and apply them. And you already struggle to know on what day they pick up your trash, and now you must memorize different days for each type of trash. What a nightmare, right? But now imagine that together with that announcement that you need those 5 bins, you are told the reason why we want 5 bins instead of 1. They will show you how it will make the sorting out work easier and how it makes the work of the garbage people more meaningful and impactful, and how much positive impact your action can have on the environment. Would you then be convinced that if you sort out your trash every day, you can actually contribute to that greater project? It is just a matter of time before you tell others how important it is to get those 5 different bins. And that principle applies for any situation, for any organization, society, even in your family. Change management, it's useful for everyone.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to the trash bin discussion. I was really irritated by this, and my first reaction was, no, I'm not going to do this. But then I started to reflect a little bit about it, and then suddenly you realize, yeah, there is a bigger meaning behind. And of course, I want to contribute to making our planet a little bit better. And if I can achieve that by sorting my trash in a different way, well, that's going to be one of my contributions, and and I'll be happy to do this. The changes you have described are not happening overnight, and while organizations are transforming, they might hire new people. What skills and competencies are they typically looking for?
When organizations implement changes, it means they change the way things are done. And that means that people must change the way they do things. So yes, it usually requires new skills and competencies. Hence why a change management strategy typically includes a skills assessment to assess the skills gaps and make sure the organization either upskill the current staff or hire new employees. So those needed skills and competencies will depend obviously on the project, the scope, the context, on so many other things. So there's no one answer to your question. But what is surely required is your capability to adopt new ways of working, being coachable, being able to advocate the changes and spread the word. So those, I think, for me, are the future required skills and competencies that everyone should have.
Yeah, my professional life is a little bit longer than yours because I'm a little bit older than you are. And I've been on both sides of the change. I mean, I was impacted by change, but I was also driving and implementing change. And I've been through all of the emotions, especially when you're impacting, because you can't influence it really, because people will then say, look, you need to do that skill assessment and you haven't got a choice. And I was always very nervous because, what if I don't have the right skills? What's going to happen to me? Will they fire me? Do I need to learn something which I don't know and maybe I don't like? I don't know. I was always these things going on in my head. And I know from all of my colleagues, they were also very nervous. And then suddenly the whole department was nervous and some kind of vibe was building up. So I think a change manager would also do something to help the people to come over that.
Yeah, exactly. So that also comes to the communication that you provide to your people. So before even trying to train them or explain them, they have to upskill themselves and acquire new skills that are needed for the project. It is important to also explain what is happening, what are the steps of the project. So it's not only about skills and competences, it's also about communicating to your employees the changes that will impact them and how they can play a role in that and how they can even contribute to the design of the project. And that really embarks your people in the project itself and we make everyone go on the same boat, I would say, towards the change.
Yeah, there is. I can talk about change forever. But just to quote an old Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, he said, "There is nothing permanent except change." And if this is true, and I can say out of my experience it is, what does it mean for our working life? Is there a way we can prepare ourselves? And how do we keep our profile relevant?
Yeah. Well, with only my 2 years of experience, work experience, I can also tell you that it's true that change always happens. I've seen it already in my past experiences, even if it's way less long than yours. But I also have an even more shocking statement here that I've heard not long ago. 85% of the jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. So for me, that's even more powerful than change is going to happen and will always happen. And Leo Salemi, a Canadian teacher, said that you can't teach You can't teach about things that don't exist yet, but you can teach someone to learn how to learn. So that's very powerful, and that links back to what I said just before, that it's important to always be able to adapt, be able to be coachable. So to maintain our profile relevant, to answer your question, and our work relevant and meaningful, we need to build the ability to learn continuously, on the job and outside the job. And our ability to gain new knowledge will be more valuable, I believe, than the knowledge itself.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm sometimes invited to schools to talk about career and what it means and how do you apply for a job and what about the interviews and all of the mechanics. But I also try to explain to them that, well, we don't know where we are in 10 years. And as you said, there will be jobs where we have no idea that they will exist. I mean, who 10 years ago would think about an influencer? Yeah, or what is a YouTuber? And, God knows what. So we are living in a very dynamic and changing world. And that's always the message I like to give them, saying, look, we need to continue learning because otherwise the skills become irrelevant. And, they take it always quite positive. It's the teachers who are in the room. They're sometimes a little bit shocked by this, that somebody says that openly. But I mean, also out of my experience, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
And if I could add something, is that some skills are transferable skills. So it's not that you have to acquire 100% of your skills every 5 years or so. There's skills that are useful forever, like the change management skills could be something that you can use whatever the project, whatever the company, whatever the skills you need. But the hard skills are the ones that are easy to acquire, actually, because you just follow a course on a technical material or a technical thing, while the soft skills that is really related to your personality, to the way you communicate, to present, to manage projects, that is something that is forever needed. And that's what I called transferable skills.
Yes, I remember in one of the sessions, one of the pupils said, well, how can I write a CV if I haven't got job experience? And I said, well, you are not born just before you write your CV. You are 16, 17, 18 years old, and you have experience and you have acquired skills. You maybe you coordinated a project or you led a project. You played a role in a workshop in school. Maybe you're good at problem solving. Maybe you're good at bringing people together, resolving conflict. There are things we learn in school and we hopefully learn in our families and in our wider social environment. And these, as you call them, the transferable skills, that is what companies need as well today. Yeah, we need to have our technical skills, but as you just said, we will need to acquire a new one and we need to let some others go. They're not relevant anymore. But how we are dealing with other human beings, with our colleagues, how we achieve something together, that remains valid. And that's what we learn and can learn even outside of the job.
Yeah, can only agree with that.
Well, that was a little bit sort of how I looked at change and what I tell the students. But what's your sort of very personal view on change, or where have you been confronted with the change? How did you deal with this?
Well, I'm a human, so it is not easy for me to change career, change house, change apartment. It's always a big step. But I'm an optimistic person, so I see change also as an opportunity to make your work, your life, or your world a better place. And I liked also to change my routine. I like to change my furniture. I like to change my food habits, my look. It is quite refreshing also for me. So it depends, I guess, on the people. But for me, it's a good thing, change. But more specifically on change management, I really see it as a tool, as a competence that I believe everyone and every organization should acquire and even master to be able to become the person you want to be also less reluctant to change, but also to make your organization or your team agile and able to adapt and reinvent itself to survive in our continuously changing environment.
Yes, continuously changing environment. I think that's a nice end of the story, so to say. Before we hit the finish line, maybe you have any advice for our listeners on how they could have a fulfilling career, or how they could, like you do, appreciate change more rather than being resistant, which is our natural reaction to change.
What we usually say is that it takes 30 days to adopt a new behavior or a habit. So I would recommend to your listener to start there. You can try make a change in your life, and it can be either changing your furniture, very easy, or change career. And try reinforce that behavior for the 30 days, and the desired change should stick then.
Wow, what a great summary. Thanks a lot, Charlene, for sharing your insight with us today. It was a really great pleasure having you in the show, so thank you very much.
And thank you too for the opportunity, and it was great to talk with you.
This was the season 1 finale of the 99 Seconds Career Podcast. I spoke with change manager Charlene about change in relation to organizations and us individuals. Hope you enjoyed listening, and you will tune in for our next regular episode in 2 weeks. We will then talk about a feeling that might be familiar to you. I don't like my boss. In the meantime, should you have any remarks, please let me know and maybe leave me a comment. Simply go to www.99scp.com, SCP like Seconds Career Podcast. I would love to hear from you. Also, do not forget to press follow, and if you see a bell or heart icon to be notified when new episodes are coming out, please press that too, so you will never miss a new one. This was the first XL version of the 99 Seconds Career Podcast. Thank you for listening and thinking along. I wish you success for the path you are following or creating. My name is Jürgen Schmid, and until next time, be the difference, remain curious and shine.